Welcome to the T-Pac Arcade. This episode is exclusively for old men with banjos, because we're playing Phalanx, the game for old men with banjos. Or at least that's what the label would have me believe. And obviously, there's nothing an elderly soul loves more than 1992 Super Nintendo space shooters from Kimco. Why listen to my radio programs and drink prune juice when I can go on a hyperspace adventure through 8 levels of undersea factories, alien biocaves, and asteroid belts full of neon advertisements? Anyway, my old hunting dog Smokey and I might be too slow and arthritic to take out wild bucks like we used to, but here I can blast enemy spaceships and alien worms to my heart's content. Not to mention all the bosses, like the mutant cyborg armadillo that reminds me of whatever critter keeps eating my begonias, the nuclear reactor infected with some kind of space growth that reminds me of the corns on my feet, and the big chomping robot that looks like my dentures. Now, all these bosses take a lot of hits before they can be blown to smithereens, but luckily Phalanx has as many weapons options as I have medications in my morning pillbox. But of course they all have downsides too. The angle blaster ricochets off environments, but leaves you vulnerable from the front if it isn't fully powered. The lasers cut through everything and can fire backwards, but don't do much damage. The homing missiles follow enemies, but can sometimes lock onto their shields instead. And the charge shot can take out anything in just a few hits, but removes your rapid fire and takes time to charge up. Pros and cons. Sorta like how my meds regulate my blood pressure but give me diarrhea all the time. And speaking of blowing it up, Phalanx actually lets you sacrifice special weapons as bombs. You should only use these when you got spare power-ups in reserve though, since you can carry up to 3 at a time. But the bombs are especially useful against bosses and enemy swarms that just won't leave you alone. Sorta like my grandkids when I made the mistake of giving them candy and quarters whenever they visit. As much as I like everything nice and simple like in the good old days of my youth, Phalanx shakes things up in all the right ways. Like with water streams that affect your movement with a backward current, exploding kidney stones that follow you around the screen, giant free-scrolling battleships with mid-bosses hidden inside, and enemies that generate black holes that try to suck you in like that doggone robot vacuum cleaner did to my favorite rug. Now, I may not be as good looking as I was back in my glory days, but the visuals in Phalanx get better and better as you go along. You start out with some average clouds and cityscapes populated with uninspired mechanical bad guys, but by the end you're flying through pink alien nervous systems and dodging big gross intestine worms, all while listening to punchy sci-fi action chiptunes. Doesn't hold a candle to my old gospel records of my banjo though, and some of the sound effects tend to cut out when there's too much happening at the same time. Either that or my hearing aids are on the fritz again. I played Phalanx on easy mode, cause I just don't have the nimble reflexes of my youth anymore. And I use save states cause I gotta get to bed by 5 p.m. and I just haven't got time to restart the whole game whenever I run out of continues. Unfortunately, the easy mode ending doesn't give you the final cutscene or credits, but I wouldn't have been able to read them without my bifocals anyway. I think I left those in the kitchen, can't remember. Which reminds me of the one thing I'd change in Phalanx. Those little red bullets are way too tiny and hard to see, and my eyesight just ain't what it used to be. But my favorite part of this game is strategically collecting and using the different power-ups. Just like my stamp collection, there's a stamp for every occasion and a blaster for every enemy. Overall, the game for old men with banjos didn't disappoint. I had so much fun I played it twice, which was just as good a use of my time as snoozing in the rocking chair on my front porch. Well, almost.